I was trick-or-treating with my friend Casey. We were both 11 years old at the time. We were walking across a small wooden bridge over a small river that many call Jack Winkle River when a black Jeep pulled up on the other side of the bridge, basically blocking our way. He turned around and hurried away. We were the types of kids to obey the stranger danger rules. We could hear the window of the Jeep rolling down, and a man with a raspy smoker's voice called for us to come back. He was yelling for help, asking us for directions. I yelled sorry and we continued to hurry away. The Jeep couldn't fit over that small bridge, so pulled away and drove down the road. On the other side, we thought we had made our escape from the creepy driver when he came in asking me, barreling around the corner and down the street, slamming on the brakes in front of us. Once again, the driver rolled down the window. Now with them right next to us, we could see there were two passengers in the car as well. An old guy with gray curly hair and a mustache in the back seat, who also had a raspy smoker's voice, told us to get in the car, that they have free bags of candy. The Jeep banged a three-point turn and tailed us wherever we went. At one point, the Jeep finally accelerated past us, came to a stop, and the back and front passenger side doors opened, and the two creepy men stepped out lunging at us. We dropped our bags of candy and ran straight for my house, which was in sight now. We rang the doorbell desperately at least 20 times. The old men that were chasing us couldn't run fast. When they saw us running to my house, they turned back. My mom opened the door and we screamed and pointed at a Jeep that was backing away in the other direction. She shoved us inside and locked the door and called the police like any mob would. She reported a black Jeep with three men inside, older looking, raspy voices, and any other descriptions we gave my mom. My mom was freaking out all night, worried about the fact that they knew where we lived. My dad tried to calm her, but she couldn't calm down. Ultimately, the police agreed to send an unmarked police car to stay out front and keep guard for 3 hours. That made my mom feel a little better, but what made us all feel better was when my dad woke us up to see the flashing red and blue lights outside of the unmarked police car. They had pulled over an SUV, a black Jeep, and three men were in cuffs. The three old crooks that tried to kidnap me and Casey. My dad went outside to talk to the officer and most likely confirmed that those were the men. Me and Casey went to the door away and screamed at the men for their attention. They looked and we both gave them the finger. My mom then pulled us back in and shut the door, sending us to bed. We went from the worst night of both of our lives to ultimately the best night of our lives. This story took place on Halloween night. I took my 7-year-old daughter Jeannie trick-or-treating for a few hours. And when we got back, I cooked dinner, we watched TV together, and then I sent her to bed. I was feeling especially tired that night, so I brushed up and went to sleep. Shortly after, my daughter entered the room and told me there was someone in her closet. I assured her there was no one in her closet. She has to sleep with me, but I once again assured her that she was safe in her room. She reluctantly went back to her room and shut the door. I made a mental note that if she came back again, I would walk her to her closet and show her that there is no one in there. Surely enough, 5 minutes later, she came back. I asked her why she thought there was someone in her closet. She responded saying she heard someone moving around and things falling over. Honestly, when she said that, it kind of made my heart jump for a second. I walked her to her room and turned on the lights. I jokingly asked, "Is anyone in there?" We stood and listened. I didn't expect to hear anything. There it was, a thought from inside the closet. I screamed at Jamie to run to the neighbors and call the police. As she did, I swung the door open I was shocked to find the neighbor's son Randy sitting on top of my daughter's Lego box. I grabbed him by the collar of the shirt and yanked him up aggressively. I walked him angrily back to his parents' house next door and found Jamie ringing the doorbell. When they answered, I shoved him inside right into his father and explained everything. I told him I wouldn't press charges, but if I ever caught him near my daughter again, they would be all sorry. Randy's dad, Mark, slapped him across the face, then asked me to come inside to allow Randy to explain himself. Me and Jamie both went inside, apparently while I was taking Jamie trick-or-treating. He was snuck into our house through an open window and hid in her closet with his friend Darrell. I asked him if this Darrell kid was still in my house. He said yes. I told Jamie to wait with Mark while I ran back into my house, and right as I entered, there he was, this Darrell kid, uglier and shady looking than Randy. He had my daughter's underwear in his hand. What I did next was completely as a fatherly protective anger. I grabbed the little shit by the throat and threw him to the floor, slapping him 4 times in the face, then hesitantly allowing him to get up and leave. The only reason I didn't call the police was because of my close friendship with Mark, but I made my point very strongly that if they ever so even waved to my daughter again, they would be in the news the next day. We went back to sleep. I let Jamie sleep with me after that incident. She was horrified the next morning. I found a small drilled hole in her closet door. The sick little bastards were spying on my daughter while she slept, at the same time playing with her underwear. Maybe you don't understand the horror of the story unless you are a parent, but there are many days where I think I made a mistake not calling the police. I still can't, but nothing has happened since, and I figure I shouldn't create more trouble now. Jamie's 13 now, and that creepy Randy has since gone away to college. When I was younger, my friends and I were trick-or-treating every year. This one particular year, as we were trick-or-treating, we passed a man who stood still, with a mask on, holding a lantern. As we walked past him, he turned his whole body around and followed us with his eyes. We were creeped out, but there were plenty of people around, so we made our way to the next house. My friends and I saw him over and over again. As we made our way from house to house, he seemed to be following us in typical horror story form. We walked so slow, we couldn't figure out how he kept up with us. At one house, when we hadn't seen him for a while, we got our candy. As we turned around to walk back to the street, the masked man stood in the road waiting for us. Immediately we knocked back on the door and told the owners of the house about it. Later on, an adult friend of the family told us he saw a masked man hiding behind a tree, waving little kids over, and he only backed off when he threatened to call the police.